Hey everyone, and welcome to the last day of quarterfinals were played today in the biggest tournament in Valorant's history, First Strike. We got to see games from some of the best teams in the world, and they did not let us down, hooking us up with some super powerful, fresh out of the meta strategies that we can all look to take into our rank games and get some sweet, delicious rank ups. With these games being played on the most recent patch, with both Icebox and the new Agent Skye enabled, this is a pivotal moment in Valorant's meta that you do not want to miss. So make sure to subscribe with bells on, as every day we'll uncover the new meta tactics being unveiled by the top teams. And we're putting a ton of effort to make this happen, so we'd be grateful if you showed your support by liking and leaving a comment below with who your favorite team is heading into the rest of the tournament. The first match of the day featured SUMN FC against Purple Cobra. SUMN FC were the definite favorites heading into this one, being rated 4th in Europe, while Purple Cobra is ranked 16th. The first map was on Bind, which both teams had plenty of games played on with high win rates. For the team compositions, both went with Omen and Sova, but SUMN FC came in with a couple of spicy picks of Viper and Breach, with Cypher as their Sentinel. This Viper-Breach combo proved to be devastating on defense. Here's how it worked. Viper set up the standard one-way on top of the box on short A, while Breach played at lamps. Cobra then made the mistake of trying to rush into short A, and the one-way gets activated into throwing down a snakebite. Now, I just want to take a moment to highlight how Breach fell back to U-Haul, lined up his fault line on short A, and hit the entire enemy team with it. The highlight makes it seem like Viper is the main reason this play worked, with the 3 headshots and all, but it's the fact that all 3 of these enemies are concussed that makes them such easy fodder. Cobra, not having learned their lesson from the first round, actually tried their luck with short A in round 3, where they have the rifle advantage. Again, they run into that setup of Breach and Viper, and it just absolutely crushes any attempt at a short A push. Keep in mind that SUMN FC actually have the gun disadvantage here, and despite that are making it look like the enemy is on a save round with how easy they win. The Purple Cobras finally catch on and give us all a lesson on what to do in this scenario. It's simple, don't be stubborn, just attack the other site. They come in with a very standard B split, 3 B long and 2 hookah. They don't make the mistake of pushing too fast though. They wait out the enemy's utility, destroy the Cypher tripwires, and really just play the angles into sight looking for a pick. And I just love what happens next. Breach goes for a little peek on defense, gets absolutely domed by a Marshall, and notice how the Cobras immediately flood into sight without hesitation. If you're on attack and you get a pick on a site, you often just want to flood in before the enemy has time to rotate and help fill in the gap the dead teammate just left. Here's what's really amazing though about SUMN FC's defensive setup. After shutting down A's site, they have a backup plan on how to deal with the inevitable B attack. They stick Cypher in a more aggressive position inside of hookah. And then, the Breach all the way from lamps lines up his fault line to hit enemies as they actually push into hookah. On top of this, they have a Viper lineup so her snakebite will land in hookah's entrance by going through the teleporter. What results is that as soon as Cypher makes contact with the enemies pushing hookah, his cage activates, Viper's snakebite goes down, and a fault line from Breach. Breach then takes the teleport and sprays down any enemies at the entrance of hookah. Now, although the Viper pick is always exciting to see, what I'm really impressed with is the usage of Breach on Bind. I definitely anticipate you'll begin to see more play on Bind as the tournament progresses. Heading into the second map, Haven, both teams brought a fairly standard team composition of Omen, Breach, Sova, and Killjoy, but SUMN FC chose the more unorthodox Raze as their 5th, while Cobra chose the more standard Jet. As someone who is not the biggest fan of Haven, I really loved seeing Cobra's defensive setup. They use Killjoy to place her utility on B site, but then play no agents on B site itself. This allows them to better defend C and A site while mainly just playing retake on B. But at the same time, it prevents the enemy from just walking into B site and planting for free, as the Killjoy utility delays the plant and gives them time to rotate. You can see just how strong this can be in round 6. They literally just put a Killjoy alarm bot on B, then stacked A site as 3, which successfully stopped SUMN FC's A attack. In addition to this, Cobra showed some fantastic defensive aggression that can be applied to solo queue. For example, this Omen smoke at A lobby, into then moving into it and jumping on the ledge to get an unexpected peek and kill. This was actually a strategy I highlighted in a previous Smurf commentary on our website, skillcapped.com, link in the description below by the way. It was the exact same scenario. Smoked A lobby, moved through it, and jumped on top of the ledge for easy kills, catching the opponent off guard. SUMN FC strike back though with some unique strategies of their own. Omen players get that notepad out. Mystic drops a smoke on top of boxes on C site, and then proceeds to ult inside it. From here, he then teleports in place to fake that he teleported out of the smoke. Then, as his team moves into C site, he then moves out of his smoke to peek. They get control of the site and get the plant down. And from here, he has a great unexpected angle to catch defenders on the retake. Now, despite the first half being competitive, Cobra simply showed too many weaknesses on their attacker side. They ended up falling back on too many simple, straightforward deathball rushes, and when it was obvious they weren't going to work, they didn't have a ton of other effective strategies to fall back on. SUMN FC ended up taking the match 2-0 and secured themselves a spot in the semifinals on Saturday, December 5th.
Thanks, Hex. Getting right into our second EU quarterfinals match for today, it was between the current number 2 ranked FunPlus Phoenix, contenders since they really burst into the scene in August at the Allied Esports Odyssey. These young Europeans, led by story veteran Angel, have shown themselves to be the only team this side of Scream Liquid to be able to battle G2. If you look at the stats, FPX have lost 5 times in tournament play thus far, and 4 of those 5 times it was to G2. So coming into this, they clearly want to knock G2 down a peg and make their case as the best team in EU. But first, they come up against nolpenski. nolpenski have been a team on the outskirts of the top 10 since October, but have been on an impressive run of form through the first strike qualifiers. However, the one mark against them currently is the lack of wins over top tier competition. Definitely playing from the underdog position this time around. Our map pick ban for this time are first map Bind, second map Split, and the final decider on Haven. Getting right into it, let's see how these teams fared on Bind. Quickly going through our team comps, we have FPX bringing Sova, Raze, Killjoy, Phoenix, and a new meta pick Viper, while nolpenski keep it very standard with Jet, Raze, Sova, Omen, and Cypher. I love the flex picks to Viper here, and honestly, despite all the memes, it needs to be stated flat out. Viper is very good in the right situations right now, and FPX showed that to great effect on Bind. What was really unique here is FPX's stack of damage utility to create constant annoyance for nolpenski, chipping them at every corner and most impactfully making the post plants nightmarish for the defense. Every single member of FPX were capable of foiling the defuse without directly peeking the diffuser. And we see that play out in round 6. FPX start off with what is the standard Viper A setup we've seen already in this tournament, the wall to cut off U-Haul and backside comboed with the smoke for heaven. What I like about the execution here is the heavy shower pressure. Shower is so underutilized and can really help blow open the A site as we've covered in past strat books. The utility goes off and FPX enter the site with Phoenix's running back and the split support from short. They get site control, get the picks needed, then once the plan is down, they immediately fall back as far as possible. Because they can use all of this utility to stop defusals, they don't even have to bother with the site, by far the biggest issue with holding A. In the end, they delay long enough to ruin all attempts by nolpenski. This strategical depth and frankly godlike entries from Old Man Angel propelled FPX to an early series lead and win on Bind 13-10. Heading to Split, we get some more beautiful, messy Valorant. It seems in general that the Split meta is super scrappy, with most teams relying on default strats and individual plays to get them by. With mid being mostly abandoned by defenders, the rounds end up boiling down to who can execute site takes better. What this has created is a lot of games where the attacker hounds have decided the outcomes, and games have been incredibly close. Both teams favored safe standard team compositions with the core 4 of Breach, Raze, Cypher, and Omen, with FPS bringing the Battle Sage, and nolpenski having their operator players stick to the Jet shenanigans. We're jumping right into the pivotal moment. Round 20, FPX are on series point and looking to close it out, while nolpenski are playing for their tournament hopes and to scrap some momentum on a low econ buy. nolpenski made the ballsy play to just run it down mid and abuse the lack of mid control from FPX. CNED hits him with the full send and guns down Angel trying to escape the shenanigans. CNED's got his steering wheel in and he's on a mission, waterfalling into B-side without a second thought, and the biggest key moment of this round happens. Instead of holding the site, Meadow gets the heck out to play retake. Keep that in mind. Cypher was forced off site without using his utility. FPX regroup in heaven and to go for the retake. The Sage pick pays huge dividends by walling the mid flank and reviving Angel, putting them into a 5v5 for the final fight. Shadow gets key picks on Jesmond and Aaron, who teleported over the mid wall but can only get one stinger pick on the flank, and once there's blood in the water, FPX wastes no time in swamping the site. And here Meadow shows his impact as an anchor, still alive, getting a pick and using his Cypher roll, and then using his still unactivated one-way in B main to annihilate nolpenski's last hope. The patience to wait for your chance and not getting too greedy as an anchor allowed FPX to win a round that normally would be near impossible had those decisions not gone their way. FPX win 13-7 and advance to face SUMN FC in the semifinals on Saturday. FPX continue to show the excellent command of fundamentals that has set them apart as one of the most consistent teams in Valorant. They continue in their role as the favorite in their upcoming semifinal match, so it'll be on SUMN to do their homework and know what to expect from the Mind of Angel come Saturday. That's all for our EU quarterfinals. The semifinals are set, but we still have more to cover. Tossing it back to Hex, let's talk about the first NA quarterfinals match played today between the Sentinels and FaZe.
Thanks, Jack. This match definitely had some hype behind it, considering that Sentinels are the #1 ranked team in North America. 4 team compositions, both teams locked in Omen, Raze, Sova, and Cypher, with Sentinels' final pick being Phoenix and FaZe Clan going with Jett. One thing I wanted to point out is the new Frenzy meta on Pistol Round that we're seeing more and more in this tournament. You can see 3 different players in the game went with Frenzy on the Pistol Round, and if you take a look at Jett, you can see she's running Armor with it. This is the typical setup we're seeing become more popular, where you just invest your entire 800 starting credits into light armor and a frenzy and run no utility whatsoever. Another common theme we've been seeing in this tournament is going aggressive on defense for early intel. This is typically done on the site that you stacked 3 defenders on, and what we're seeing is all 3 defenders push out one location to help trade kill if they make contact. Otherwise, if no attackers are there, it can give them the early intel needed to immediately rotate to the other site, while also setting someone up to push through the flank. Still, despite Sentinels being the #1 ranked team in North America, Bind is definitely one of their worst maps, and it showed. FaZe was pretty consistently getting the better of the strategic battle, such as in this case getting the plant down on a site, and then being a man-up 3v2 against Sentinels. However, the players Sinatra and Sick are just straight up better, making it look easy as they push into sight with confidence and get the defuse despite being a man down. This is really what this map boiled down to, Sentinels just being better mechanically. Also, really hate having to do this, but Baby Bay of FaZe Clan had a terrible game on Jett going 5-14. We can see here him losing an operator to a classic pistol. Then on the following round, he gets tagged by the Owl Drone into Sova ult combo. Usually a mobile agent like Jett has no issues dodging this combo. However, he makes the mistake of dodging right out in the open of B site, making him an easy target for the attackers pushing up B long. And to make matters worse, on the final round of the game where FaZe is in a must-win scenario, he makes the choice to updraft over an enemy cage in U-Haul to try and land a Bucky shot and just gets swatted down like a fly. Now, I'm not pointing this out to put all the blame on him, all players have off games as I'm sure we all know, but it highlights how the individual performance of the players can be volatile and have a huge impact on the outcome of these games. FaZe Clan definitely had their backs against the wall heading into Map 2, with Sentinels picking Split, their best map by far with an 85% win rate over 26 pro matches. And the first round did not go well for FaZe, they gambled on stacking A site as defenders. In fact, they played so passive on B, they just straight up walked out of sight and let Sentinels plant for free. Playing the retake on B site isn't exactly an easy task, and what ended up happening is basically just a lot of dry peeks and aim duels that Sentinels got the better of. Sentinels kept punishing their weaker B setup with very standard split attacks through B heaven, getting their trade kills, and I feel like this clip really encompasses what happened in this match between these two teams. Sentinels take B site. They're in a 2v2 scenario in the post plant, and they just absolutely outplay FaZe. After the plant, they take control of alley, then send one player for the old loop-de-loop to flank B heaven while one stays in alley. FaZe naturally gets control of the site uncontested, but then as soon as they tap the bomb, they get peeked on the flank from heaven for an easy kill. That then naturally pulls the attention from the last defender to look B heaven, so Sinatra, who's been sitting on the flank in alley, peeks to get a freebie. Now, if you aren't buying into this narrative that Sentinels were just straight up better, then check this out. Remember that first pistol round on Split where Sentinels took a free B site, then FaZe got demolished trying to retake? Well, once they swapped sides, guess what happens on the first pistol round? The exact same scenario, just reversed. This time, FaZe are the ones who take a completely free B site, and Sentinels are now in the retake scenario. Just take a second to look at the minimap. FaZe are 5v4, they have 4 players in the site, and Cypher is coming up on the flank. FaZe should definitely win this round. But then we see Sentinels hit B site with a Skye flash into an Omen flash and flood in. What we then witness are a quick series of gunfights, and once the dust settles, we see 3 members of Sentinels are still alive. They literally only lost 1 teammate while killing all 5 of FaZe on a pistol round. Nearly identical strategic scenarios, but Sentinels just simply execute and perform better. Sentinels, as expected, take the match 2-0 and secure themselves a spot in the semifinals on Saturday, December 5th. Now, remember how on the first map on Bind, I criticized Baby Bay on FaZe for his Jett performance? Well, check this out. The very next map, he puts up some fantastic numbers on Breach. outperforming his team and actually having the highest average combat score in the game despite being on the losing team. And if your eyes scroll down to the bottom, you may want to look away, as you'll see his teammate Raucus going 1 in 14 and only doing 12.3 average damage per round. Again, not trying to just dogpile on specific players, but it really highlights how if a single teammate has just a single off game, it could be a huge game changer at this level of pro play.
There's no doubt about the value of your teammates at any level of play, but especially at the pro level. Congrats to Sentinels for their high level of play, but now it's time to decide their opponent. 100 Thieves versus T1, titans of both Valorant and CSGO history, like Skadoodle, Brax, Hiko, AZK, Shazam, Dazed, Steel, and of course newcomer Nitro. The coolest part of this matchup is that all of these guys have either played on professional teams together in the past, or at the very least scrimmed or pugged with them thousands of times. There was a level of intimacy and familiarity in this matchup that is unheard of in any sport, let alone Valorant. But talking specifically about Pro Valorant, even then these guys have an interesting history all around. Hiko has been with 100 Thieves since the beginning and gone through a rocky road of revolving door teams as the scene has developed, finally solidifying into this monstrous lineup it is today. The breaking point is surely coming during the FaZe Clan Invitational, and since then this 100T lineup has had a steady run of good performance, scoring big wins in the first strike thus far against Sentinels and TSM alike. A very similar set of events happened to this T1 lineup. It isn't unfair to say that Valorant seemed like it would be a serious esport the moment T1 announced their signing of Brax back in the beta. And in the early days, Brax and the boys laid claim to North American Valorant at that time, but since then it's been nothing short of rocky. A team best described as inconsistent but full of potential, T1 come into first strike once again on a good run of form, but are definitely unproven. So, our stage is set. Let's see what maps these two squads will battle it out on. First map Haven, second map Bind, and the third decider to be played on Ascent. Getting right into it, this Haven game was the perfect embodiment of NA Valorant. An over-reliance on default strategies on attack, and an equal reliance on individual excellence on defense. The problem specifically for Haven is that the defaults can be punished very easily because of the harshly defense-sided nature of the sites. This led to a lot of bloodbath rounds early on, and the only real successful takes coming from fakes, like what 100 Thieves executed in round 8. 100 T begin the round desperate to secure any kind of control and put a round on the board, but lack any of the ultimate ability utility to do so. They start off by maneuvering Asuna on the Phoenix to secure the C-long orb and get his run it back online. Now they plan on using this to sell the fake across the map on A, but it also helps to mess with the defense because the C players can hear that audio and know that the attackers are near C, or at least they were. This can mess up rotate timings. 100T rotate over to A and set up 3 people for the A cell, scaring Skadoodle along with the op and then smoking him out to cross the short. The fake is sold with Asuna getting a crazy kill on Brax, and watch the minimap here. Look how quickly T1 scrambled to reinforce A. Even though Spider stays behind to hold C, he's just one man, making a trade for site control very viable. The Thieves storm the site, and because of their map control can go for this innovative long plant that's way more in the open compared to traditional plant spots. From here though, Haven rears his ugly head. T1 go absolutely stupid on this retake and just get every frag they need. In the end, this was emblematic of the entire first map. Defense dominated the whole way, and attackers winning rounds felt like anomalies. The Thieves roared back on their second half and commandingly took the victory, shutting down T1's attack every single time. Heading over to Bind, and man, it was a mess. This game and this whole series is really worth watching because it can best be described as pure chaos from default setups. That means that it was very fun to watch, but very hard to find valuable strategies for you guys. But all hope is not lost. On round 8 we get to see an awesome example of how to get off a successful take even after your one smoke agent has been picked early into a round. AZK and Spider scrap with Thieves and Hookah, leading to AZK and his valuable smokes getting picked within seconds of the round. This is almost always a death sentence because there's now nothing outside of Jet's Cloudburst and Cypher's cages to create any kind of cover entering a site. So what do? Well, T1 uses it as an opportunity to flip it into a fast A hit after some time spent scrapping on the map. To avoid the issues of Heaven, they use both Cypher cages to guide them from short onto site, with the extra support of Phoenix's run it back. While crude, this did allow T1 to run it down and make the necessary trades to get the plant down. Once Brax sniffs out the teleport from Nitro, T1 have basically secured the round because of how tough the retake would be from this point. It's a fantastic recovery from a bad situation, and the perfect example of relaxing when something goes wrong and making a strong mid-round call instead. From here, the game became a back and forth frag fest, both teams trading blow for blow, but 100 Thieves slowly etching out the lead where they needed the most. In the end, they secure a 13-10 victory and knock T1 out of first strike. I'm going to agree with Sean Gares here pretty heavily. T1 showed absolutely brilliant points in this series, an incredible improvement over what we'd seen from them in the last few months. I still maintain what I've always said. Brax needs to step up and be the superstar for this team. He's capable, in my opinion, of being the best player in NA and even all of Valorant. He just needs to realize that potential. For 100 Thieves, it's clear that they are a strong team in this tournament and most of all have recent wins over Sentinels going into the semis. Nitro is showing himself still capable of having star level impact, and for my money, Asuna might be the find of the tournament. This guy is an entry god and incredibly skilled at piloting Phoenix to round wins. 100 Thieves need to keep that up if they have finals aspirations. And that's it for the First Strike quarterfinals. 16 teams across both regions trimmed down to 8, with Team Heretics, G2, SUMN FC, and FunPlus Phoenix advancing in Europe. Across the pond, Team Envy, Team Solo Mid, Sentinels, and 100 Thieves emerged from the stacked field triumphant. Today, those teams will battle to the bloody end for a spot in the finals. Heretics vs G2, SUMN FC vs FPX, Team Envy vs TSM, and Sentinels vs 100 Thieves. Now, we've talked at length so far about the strengths showed by these teams, so I'm going to keep it brief and go into my predictions. Firstly, I really like Heretics, but G2 have never lost a best of 3, so I'm going to go with the stats here and take G2 to win this series. But I think Heretics have the ability to make it close and push it to a third map. While Heretics are an underdog that I can get behind, I really believe that SUMN FC on the other hand won't be able to handle the consistent excellence of FPX, and I expect Angel to guide his squad to another finals appearance. In NA, frankly, we have a fucking nuts bracket here, pardon my language. Arguably the best 4 teams all vying for domination of their region, and truthfully any team here could emerge victorious. I really like the style and swagger of Envy, but I think TSM showed incredible form in their quarterfinals match. And if that TSM shows up, I expect them to win handily. On the other side, I truly have no idea who will win in the Sentinels vs 100 Thieves match. This game could easily be the best map of the tournament and should be watched by everybody. It's going to be a 3-map bloodbath and I have no idea who walks away from it. And that's all we have for today. Man, what another awesome day of tournament play. Once again, these videos are taking all hands on deck here at SkillCapped, so if you like it, let us know by leaving a comment, liking the video, and subscribing as well. See you guys tomorrow for the semifinals recap.